Episode 279, Young Adults, You Don't Have to Have It All Figured Out, with Tiffany Rhoton.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with the coach? Here we go.
In this episode, Heather Rackham sits down with young adult life coach Tiffany Rhoton to unpack the real struggles facing today's young adults, especially within the LDS community. From overwhelm and comparison to the pressure of doing life right, Tiffany shares powerful mindset shifts that help young adults move forward with clarity, confidence, and peace. This conversation is a refreshing reminder that life isn't meant to be figured out all at once, and that happiness isn't waiting on the other side of a milestone. Please enjoy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I have Coach Tiffany Rhoton with me today. Hey, Tiffany. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you, Heather? Long time no see.
Good. I know. It's fun to see you. I think, did I get to see you like in September? Were we in person? Did we see?
Maybe. Yes. Was that something?
The Faith Matters. Did you come to that Faith Matters little get together beforehand? Okay.
Yes.
So I did get to see you in
That's where it
person
is,
there,
yeah.
which was lovely. But anyway, that's not our topic of conversation today. We've got great things to talk about and a
Yes, we do.
perfect audience of people to talk to. And one that we oftentimes don't speak directly to this audience of people. We speak more to parents a lot of times. So I'm going to let you address that. But before we do, why don't you tell people who you work with?
Okay. I am a young adult, LDS young adult life coach. I work, mostly some older teens, but a lot of your college age, mission age, marriage age kids, young adults, I call them. And man, do I love this age group. I'm just helping them work through a time of life when they are making a lot of big decisions and trying to figure life out. I have a lot of young adults in my own house, so I understand that. And so, yeah, it's really fun for me to help this age group.
I am so happy that they have you for a resource. And I've said this before, probably when you've been on, but I wished, looking back, like how incredible this resource would have been for me in that time of my life when I can look back and see patterns in my brain and things that I thought were either an answer to a prayer that was not. It was just my brain working the way that it's supposed to. I just didn't understand it. Like so many things that caused me so much stress that I did not need to experience if I would have just known some things.
That's me too. And I think that's part of the reason I decided to do this is just, I remember being so lost at that age and trying to figure it out. And I didn't have any tools or resources other than, pray and beg and plead for the Lord. But there's a lot of just basic tools, mental health tools that really would have helped me had I have had it all those years ago.
Well, here it is.
Here we are.
They're widely available for people now, which I don't think they necessarily even see that. They see glimpses of things, I think, on social media and, glimpses of information from people, but there's something different about actually doing it and getting down to the nitty gritty, working with the coach and applying it specifically to your life. So anyway, I think I love it. What are you seeing as the most common thing right now for the that LDS young adults are struggling with?
I see so much overwhelm. I think this age group has more options than we did. There's just so many things that they could do, maybe a lot of things they feel like they should do. So they have a lot of expectations. So I see a lot of loneliness, a lot of them just stuck. Again, they're overwhelmed. They have options, but they don't know which one is, quote, right for them. And so I feel a lot of stresses. I think a lot of them are worried about the future. AI is frightening for their jobs. The economy is on their minds. Relationships seem to be, I don't know if they are, but it seems like they seem to be more difficult. Dating seems to be more difficult. And so they just have a lot of stresses and worries and not knowing how to take life with all that they have in front of them.
That is such a good point. It's like social media has made the world so small. The access to the digital age makes everything so small, but yet it also is like the world is their oyster, right? Like it means, like
Yes.
you said, there is
Yes.
so many things constantly in front of them, so many options that like we wouldn't even like for us, it was just like, this is what you do. You do this and you do this and you this because we
Right.
didn't know anything else.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that is such an interesting point. I hadn't really
Yeah.
considered the effect that that has on people.
Right. And then it puts all these ideas in their head and then they get the comparison game going. Like I
Mhm.
see that constantly, this social media causes this terrible comparison. And a lot of young adults believe everybody else has it figured out but them. I hear that so much. Just everybody else knows what they're doing. Everybody else has a plan. Everybody and I'm like, no, most of them actually don't. I would say the majority that I talk to don't actually know. And they're struggling. They may know career wise, but they don't know what to do with relationships or vice versa. And so, there's so much comparison and I don't know what I'm doing and everybody else does. So
Yeah.
not true.
Well, that's good. Let's just like check that myth off the list right now,
Yes.
right?
Right
So
now.
what do you think? I'm curious too, like do you think there's a difference between LDS youth and just youth in general? Do you feel like LDS youth tend to put more pressure on themselves, or is it kind of more across I don't know, and you work more specifically with LDS youth, so maybe you don't know the difference, but
I work
I'm
with
always
both.
curious
I
about that.
actually work
Okay.
with both. I have a lot of non-LDS clients as well that are
Okay.
young adults. And I would say across the board, there is pressure there for sure.
Okay.
I think, when non-LDS youth are more maybe career or finances towards driven, it's very
Okay.
much the accolades, the PhDs, landing the good jobs. Not that LDS are not.
Mhm.
I think just with the LDS, there's other things that, in the world, I see kids getting married quite a bit later. In the LDS realm, we believe in marriage and family and in missions and in college and education and all these things. And so where I think we feel pressure is, what is the right way for me? What is the right thing to do? And then I talked to, and even last week, a girl, they're just feeling if they don't hit certain milestones by certain ages, then they feel like they're failures, right? If I'm not married by 25, then there's something wrong with me. If I don't serve a mission right out of high school like everybody else, there's something wrong with me. And so I see a pressure where they're trying to do what they feel like they should, but at the same time, they look around and they're like, well, everybody else is married or everybody else is graduating or everybody else is leaving on a mission right now. And I was thinking of going to school first. And that's where I think, our prophet talks so much about revelation for yourself and figuring out for yourself what is the best thing for you, because there isn't just one right way to do life. There's not one right way to do young adult life, even in the church. There's so many options. And when we place ourselves into these certain confines of I have to do this by this time, and if not, then there's a problem. And I just see that's where a lot of the pressure comes in expectations of things should be a certain way, and then when they're not, then they feel like their lives are broken and they feel stuck.
Yeah, and to me, that seems like it falls just into that comparison category again,
Mhm.
right? Like, there's so much comparison that happens that we think that
Yeah.
make us think we know what something should look like.
Right.
So, yeah, learning to truly to trust yourself, I think, is
Yeah.
so important to being able to make those decisions and be confident in decisions you make.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, you talked a little bit about them feeling stuck, like wanting to do things the right way. What would you say to help people, the young adults who feel stuck, that want to move forward, that are kind of stuck in this there's a right way to do this sort of mentality? What do you say to your clients to help them move forward?
Right. I think, we all know there's certain things in mental health called all or nothing thinking. And we do get in those traps where it's either this way or it's that, and that's the only way. But as we know, there's tons of different options, right? Like I have some that are like, well, I can only do this or this. And it's like, no, actually, there's lots of options. So getting trapped. But, we talk a lot as life coaches, Heather, about the way we think, the way we look at life, the way we perceive things really will have a huge impact on how we feel, how we act, how we go about things. And so when we get in these traps of thinking, patterns of thinking where we think it has to be a certain way, then you feel really stuck. I'm thinking of a client recently who is 24 and not married. And so this is where you look at the thought process here. I'm basically a failure because I'm 24. I'm a return missionary and I haven't gotten married. And I thought I would get married as soon as I got home. And, as we look at that and we understand her thinking, we started looking at, well, why does 24 need to be that age? Why do we think we need to be married? And part of it is, I think a lot of young people, and I remember being this way. Once I get married, then I'll be happy. Once I graduate, then I'll be happy. Once I serve the mission, I'll be happy. Once I do certain things, I'll be happy. And what you and I know is that happiness isn't created from circumstances. President Nelson talked about that all the time, that the joy we feel doesn't come from the circumstances or where we're at or whether we're 24 or 21 or 27. It comes from how we perceive and look at it, right? I mean, what does he say exactly? I can't remember.
It has
The joy we feel has little to do with our circumstances and everything to do with the focus, right? So the way we're thinking about it. And so as we talked and we realized being 24 and not married alone doesn't really have any drama to it. There's no we can't prove that being 24 and not married is a failure. That's just a way of thinking. And so when we can look at maybe being 24 and not married can be a gift because then you can go out and do certain things or you can serve or help or lift or bless or whatever it is you feel like you're, inclined to do. But really starting to focus on how you think about your life is really powerful. If you believe that success comes with a certain amount of money in your bank account, with, I have to do certain things. I have to have certain accolades. I have to have a certain amount of money, whatever it is. If that's where you're going to base happiness, you're going to be disappointed every time because that's not where it comes from. Marriage doesn't inherently make you happy. You can be lonely in marriage and you can be lonely not married.
Yeah.
You can be happy married, but you can also be very unhappy married. And when we start to break away a little bit of these ideas that we have in our head that happiness is created from certain things, that's where we start to find a little bit of unstuckness. Is where I'm at right now is not a problem. It is not a problem to be 24 and not married. Now, my parents might think so. And the ward might think so, but there is nothing inherently wrong with that. And what can you do as a 24-year-old if you're not? Or what can you do? I know of a young man that didn't serve a mission and he feels like he's stuck because he didn't serve a mission. Nobody's going to marry him. That's a thought process. That's not necessarily true. And by thinking that way, then you kind of go into the dating world hopeless, believing that no one's going to like you if you didn't serve a mission. And that's just not true. That's a thought. So we've got to get, more clear on the way we think about things and the way we perceive life. And oftentimes the way our brain comes up with things, it's not necessarily true.
And I'm going to say something to not the young adults. I'm going to say something to the adults that are spending time with these young adults really quick. We've got to change our narrative too. It doesn't need to be, hey, you're not married yet. Like what's, like, oh, are you dating? Like we make it the problem that it does not need. It is not a problem. It's not a problem. It's because we talk about it that it becomes a problem.
And that's where the pressure comes from, right?
Yes.
Because, if you go up to young adults, so are you dating anyone? You getting married yet? What are you saying to that young adult? Well, I think you should be married. And if you're not, why aren't you?
Yeah. And your life can't be full and complete until you are. Like there's a lot of hidden messages in those comments.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, here's the thing as adults too, they already feel the pressure. They know that they're, they know that everybody wants them and expects them to be married or go on a mission. Hey, you leaving on a mission yet? They know that. They already feel pressure. So when we add our own take on it, it's just more and more added pressure where they're like, well, I guess I'm a failure if I'm not married. Well, I guess I'm a failure if I haven't served a mission yet. And it gives the wrong message to our young adults where they feel like failures if they haven't hit those certain milestones that we as adults think they should have by a certain age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll take it back. I just had to throw that out there to anybody.
Don't get me on that one. Don't.
I know. So let's go back to talking then to this age group that you work with. I have heard you say, and we've heard this before, that especially in this context. And you talked about them feeling overwhelmed, like we have to figure everything out all at one time, and everything just feels like biggest decisions need to be made at a time in our
Yeah.
lives when there really is not, we haven't had a whole ton of life experience. So it
Right.
does start to feel overwhelming. But I've heard you mention before this concept of we don't really have to figure out the whole elephant all at once. What does that
Yes.
look like for a young adult?
Well, if you're looking at someone coming out of high school or, those early young ages, they're like, okay, I got to figure out exactly what major I should have, what college I should go to, when I should, or if I should serve a mission, all the things, dating, there's so many parts to their young adult lives where I see a lot of overwhelm is they're like, I've got to have this all figured out right now. I've got to know exactly. I see a lot of return missionaries coming home going, oh no, I don't know what I should major in, what my career should be. And so they take the whole thing at once. And it would be overwhelming for any of us if we were trying to make all the major decisions in life right this second. Like, as you and I know, Heather, life evolves and it doesn't always just, come that way. And what I try to do with young people is help them rein it back in. And I'm like, okay, so usually we take it to the next best step. So I did this last year with one of my clients, and this was exactly how they were feeling. They were like, I don't know which college. I've got 3 different colleges and I've been accepted by all, and I don't know which is the right one. And my parents want this and I want this, and but should I serve a mission? And I don't know. But then I have this guy who likes me and maybe I'll get married. And I mean, it was just, she
It's
was so
exhausting to
overwhelmed.
think about, right? Like I think about
And
a
she
brain
was so
thinking like that.
stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was just stuck. She like, I'm paralyzed by all the decisions that I need to make. So I'm like, okay, what has to be made right now? And what we realized was the only thing was, I think this was actually in the fall, and she had applications that needed to be into colleges or whatever by December 1st or January 1st or something. And I said, okay, what is the next thing that you need to do maybe to just kind of look at your future? And she's, we just learned we just got to get a couple of college applications in, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I think that's what it was. And so I'm like, then let's just work on that. She's like, well, what about a mission? I don't know. And I said, well, how about we just get some college applications in if that's what's on your mind and that's what's worrisome to you. And then let's think about a mission, but we don't need to say when we're going to go or where or what or how. And so again, we just, instead of trying to take it all at once, and maybe it's, I don't know, I'm thinking about a mission. Okay, what would be the next step? Why don't you just go have a visit with your bishop or with your parents or with a good friend and say, I don't know, I've been thinking this way, or with the Lord, heaven forbid, let's go have a conversation with the Lord and ask him his thoughts about it and, what he thinks. But again, just taking bit-sized pieces. So I always talk to him about what is the next best step to take. Let's just take one step. And then when that's completed, then we'll take the next step and then the next. And we don't need to figure out where we're living in college and where our books are and who we're going to roommate with and whatever. We just need to get an application in first. Once we do that, then we'll figure out, tuition, or next we'll figure out whatever. It's just a more manageable way, and it doesn't make it pulls our brain back down from this huge elephant that feels so overwhelming just to one little decision at a time. And that's how life is. We don't make anything majorly like that all at once. It's just a lot.
It is a lot. And like I said, like I'm listening to you talk about all the things, and it's like your brain wants to explode for them because I so understand. And my brain still does that now. And I think most adults, like our brain still does that. But learning things like this is like, oh yeah, I have options in the way that I look at this. I have options in
And you don't need to have it all figured out now. I didn't figure out my major in college till my junior year. I just didn't.
Yeah.
I just kept taking classes till I figured it out, right? So I don't need to know going in. I know the colleges want you to know, but just put something down and it'll change. And that's the other thing that I really talk a lot about is things are changeable. Most things are very changeable. You can change your mind. You can get a semester in school and decide this isn't the right thing, or it's not the right place, or it's not the right time. And you can change that. You can switch. I had a son switch schools in the middle of the year. He got to December. He's like, I don't like it here. I don't want to be here. And he switched to another school. And so most things are very, very changeable. We can change our mind even if we get down that road. Elder Holland talks about that. Sometimes we have to go down a road and just start going that way to decide. And you may get down there and go, "Ooh, I don't think this is the right road." Okay, well then turn around and find a different one. It's not the end of the world if you get to a college and you decide you don't like it and you want to do something different. It's not a problem, and we don't need to make it a problem. Our brain wants to make it a problem, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem.
Once again, it's like the story you choose to tell about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, it
Yeah.
was part of my journey, like Elder Holland's quote there that you
Yeah.
shared, right? Like this
Yes.
process of figuring out was part of the journey. I needed to do this
Yeah.
all along versus, oh, I've made a terrible mistake. I've messed everything up. Like the story we tell about it makes all the difference.
All the difference.
You addressed this a little bit, but that point of, I'll be happy when I've done this. What do you say to, how do you address that with young adults when that is the focus of their life? Like, oh yeah, I can be happy at this moment. But until that happens, I'll just kind of be in limbo.
Right. I mean, we talk a lot about what happiness means. And we also, a lot of times they interchange success and happiness is the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be happy and successful, but really happiness is totally defined differently for everyone, right? I don't know that I don't think happiness is ever a state that we get to. We're just like, oh, I'm just blissfully happy every day all the time. It's just the way, you know what I mean? None of us are that way. And I think the more I try and teach them principles of what creates happiness, and again, a lot of it comes down to the beliefs that we have, the way we tend to look at things. If we believe all happiness is when we get married, we may end up down the road. Well, number one, what it does is we're not happy now. We're not happy as we are. And I see this so much where young adults feel like marriage is going, and Heather, you and I are married and have been for a long time. And is there parts of marriage that is really happy? Yes. There's also parts of marriage that are they're a struggle, that are sometimes frustrating or lonely or whatever. And understanding that happiness is really a state of mind that we create depending on, and it's not necessarily created from that situation or that circumstance. So what we work on a lot with a lot of young adults, because I see a lot of them struggling and discouraged because they would like to be married or they're struggling with the dating world. And we talk a lot about being happy now, right now, where they're at, in the place they're at, finding the joy, finding the things that are good about being single and a young adult. Because I mean, there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of things that they can do, but they literally don't even enjoy that period of life because they're so focused on where they think that happiness will be. Now, is there happiness to be found in marriage? Sure. Absolutely. But there's also a lot of happiness to be found in single life. And the same thing goes, I see a lot of missionaries that, I was so happy on a mission and now I've come home and life seems to be harder. And I'm like, listen, mission life, why was it happy? What were the thoughts you had? What was the perception of missionary life? When you get home, you have to create a new kind of joy and happiness that is not going to be the same as it was in missionary life. It's just different. But it's great too if you can look and find the good. We often talk about a 50-50 principle we learned in school, and I have my own thoughts about that principle, but basically anything in life, there is joy and there is sorrow. That's what we know, right? It's the contrast that really, we all have it. There's joy and there's sorrow. There's good and there's bad. There's right and there's wrong. There's all these things. In any stage in your life, there is going to be some good and there's going to be some hard. But the more we focus and choose to focus on things that are good, things that are happy, whatever, the more we will be inclined to find them. But if we are just banking on the idea that I am miserable because of this, this, and this, that's where your life will be. You'll be miserable and stuck and frustrated, and it's all your choice. And I guess that's what my message is to young people all the time is we think that circumstances determine that, but it's our choice how we want to think about things. It's our choice how we want to feel about things. It's our choice how we want to go about acting in our life. That is all somewhat within our power. There are certain things that are not in our control. Sometimes dating isn't always in our control, but there's a lot of things that are, and we can put forth effort and we can do our best and we can try. And so do what you have the power and what is in your control, but you do get to decide whether you want to be happy, whether you do get to decide if you want to feel good about where you're at in your life. That's your choice.
Right. And, to be fair, there are things in our life that we don't want to feel happy about, right? Like there are
No.
going to be those things in our life. And that's also the other part of kind of choosing happiness is knowing that at times I will also choose sadness.
Mhm.
And I think also included in that is that we just think that the point is to be happy all the time. Like
Mhm.
that's just, I should just be happy and with if I'm not, then something's gone wrong. And
Right.
that is also not the point of life. Like we are
Right.
here to experience joy, but we can't have joy unless we experience pain and the sadness and
Exactly.
sorrow. So trying to
Right.
fight that or thinking that it should never be part of our life also exacerbates that problem of us thinking that something's gone wrong, right? So yes, we get to choose
Right.
what we think, but also if we're always thinking everything should always be just hunky dory, that causes a problem for us as well.
Right. And I see that with a lot of young adults where they don't understand the part that emotion plays in life
Mm-hmm.
and how emotions, are something what I see a lot of is that we're not very comfortable with negative emotion. We're not very comfortable with being lonely. We're not very comfortable with feeling certain emotions. And so you and I do it too. This is a human condition we all experience, but we call it buffering, but essentially it's coping mechanisms, right? So if we don't want to feel lonely, if we don't want to feel sad, if we don't want to feel any of those emotions, then we replace them with scrolling on our social media and binging Netflix. And I mean, it can be all kinds of ways. Pornography is one way that we somehow deal with emotion. We don't know how to handle negative emotion. And so we go to things that we perceive will make us feel better. So one of the things that I really work with young people is helping them learn to process and deal with emotion, both the good and the bad. You're right. The
Yeah.
human condition is we're going to have all of it. And the more that we're not afraid of emotion when we do feel bored or lonely or frustrated or whatever, that we can learn to sit in those emotions and be okay rather than, oh no, I'm lonely, I'm bored, I need to go do something. I can't feel this way. It's not okay to feel, certain stresses or emotions. And really, you and I know that mental health is learning to sit with both and knowing that as humans, we're going to have all of those riches of emotions. And really, I believe God gave us those emotions for a reason, right? It
Yeah.
gives us contrast in our life. We just need to learn to not be so afraid of emotion.
Yeah. Just really quick, I experienced that just this weekend. I was experiencing some emotions that I really disliked. And it was like, okay, I got to think my way out of this. I can change the way I'm thinking about this
Mhm.
to not feel this way. And that was not working because I actually did it was an appropriate way to feel, I decided. Like, the way that I
Yeah.
felt was an appropriate way to feel. I wanted to feel that way in this situation, but my job, and I had to keep repeating myself to myself, is to be able to tolerate this emotion. What I'm trying to do right
Yes.
now is
Yes.
expand my ability to tolerate this emotion rather than just fighting it because that makes it
Right.
worse. And so
Yes.
anyway, I
Right.
just remembering that like a lot of the work that we do as humans is learning to tolerate and expand our capacity to experience the things that we don't love. We don't love to
Right.
feel.
Right.
So,
Experiencing those negative emotions
yeah.
and being okay with having those, right?
Mhm.
I think that's why a lot of our missionaries struggle when they go out. They start experiencing all these things they've never
Yeah.
experienced. And there's a lot of negative emotion that comes along with, and they're not very used to being uncomfortable. We don't like to be uncomfortable as humans. We love to just be very comfortable all the time. And it's not so much figuring out how to be comfortable as it is learning how to sit and be uncomfortable for a minute
Right.
and be okay. Like you
Because
can actually be okay.
their typical buffering mechanisms are no
Yes,
longer with them on a mission, right? Like
exactly.
going to
Yes.
hang out with friends or scrolling social media
Scrolling.
or watching a
Yes.
movie. Like those things are
Yes.
removed from them. So rather than
Yes.
buffering them away, they have to sit with them. And
Yes.
it's miserable and it is a very important life skill to learn how to do.
It
So,
is because life is not all la la land. Life
yeah.
has all different kinds of emotions. And the more we can learn to live with just uncomfortable things and be okay, that really, you're right. It's a skill that is so valuable as you move forward
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, as we wrap up here, A word that kind of just keeps coming to my mind is a word that we use a lot in our church culture, and that's agency. That we are, we all get to practice and use our agency. And as you're speaking directly to LDS young adults, what do you want them to understand about that, about agency and the power that they have in their life when they use that?
I had a client last week and I was explaining to her kind of this same idea I was telling you, that we do have a lot of choice in how we want to look at things, look at life, look at our environment. We get to decide often how we want to feel and think and whatever. And to me, when I found the life coaching work 10 plus years ago, that was the mind-blowing thing. And when I taught this girl, she says, wow, so what you're saying is I decide how I want to feel about being this age and experiencing all the things that I am, and that I get to, I don't have to be depressed about everything, whatever. She was really excited. She's like, this is mind blowing. And I said, it is. And to me, it is the true form of agency. I think our world teaches us that we're victims of things. We're a victim of our parents, or we're a victim of our culture or our backgrounds, or we're victims of the government, or the way we, whatever it is that we are, and Elder Bednar talks about this so much, is it's being acted upon versus acting. And when you start to realize that, mayhem can be happening worldwide, which is a fear of so many of us, there, so many things to be afraid of. But when we realize, what power or control do I have over myself and my own emotions and my own thinking? That's where agency really thrives. And it also makes us feel better because, I cannot change what the government does. I can't change necessarily what certain people do, but I can decide how I want to look at it. And I can decide how I want to feel about it. And oftentimes when it comes to things like that, way out of my control, I'm like, there's nothing I can do about that. There is absolutely nothing. Sitting and binging the news does nothing for me personally to help my mental health. It doesn't. So what can I do? I can wake up in the morning and I can go about the world doing good, which is what the Savior would have us do. Go about doing good. Go about being who you were born to be and be that person. Go out and put good into the world. That's what I can control. That's what I can do. I can be that listening ear for that friend that's struggling. I can help others around me. I can't really do much on a worldwide level, but it's such a peaceful place when you realize that you do have some control. You do have some agency over yourself and your own life. It's such an empowering, happy place to live and be. And it's not that we're going to be there all the time, right, Heather? You and I coach and we do this for a living. And there are times we just have rotten days and we just sit in a rotten day and we're okay with it, right?
Well, sort of okay with it.
Sort of okay with it. We're hoping for better days ahead. But, you and I have both been through hard things. We know that the life can be challenging. But even in the challenges, we can learn to manage those things and not let us get to a point where we're totally stuck and totally in this place where we can't move.
So true. Well, thank you. The agency aspect is huge, and it kind of brings the gospel and the things that we believe full circle. Like it's just everything about it. Anyway, Tiffany, will you share with people how they can connect with you? We will link to all of it in the show notes, but I would just love for you to be able to share with them.
Yes, absolutely. You can find me online at directyourlifecoaching.com. And there's places you can go and get free consult calls. If you just want to call and talk to me for 30 minutes, it's free and you can just say hi. And also I'm on Instagram. It's Tiffany Rhoton Coaching. And let's see, how else can you get a hold of me? I have a podcast, and if you're just not sure about the whole coaching life, some people are very curious about what a life coach does and whatever. I have a podcast called Happy Young Adults, and it's on most of the podcast platforms, and there's several dozen episodes, but it's just a way for you to kind of get warmed up to what I teach and what I do and how I can help you in your life. But yeah, if you need individual help, if you have a young adult or you yourself are a young adult that just could really use some help from someone who's just very neutral, non-judgmental, that can just sit and listen and help you figure out whatever you're trying to figure out. Those are good ways to kind of get to know me and know what I do.
Awesome. Well, we will, like I said, we'll link to that in the show notes. Tiffany, thank you. This is a very important group of people to talk to that they have so much going for them that they don't even recognize and see. And I'm so happy for them to have these resources. So, all right.
Yep.
Thank you. And thanks to everybody for being here with us today. And we hope you'll join us again next week.
Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.